Housing bubble isn't going anywhere. Just a thought. I imagine that as long as there are people who want the bubble to pop just to buy a home don't realize how oxymoronic this is. A bubble doesn't pop until the average person finds a reason to no longer want a home, creating a surge of supply, thereby meaning that people have a hard time selling, so they have to lower prices. As long as there are so many people who are in that position, which are plenty from my own anecdotal evidence, this bubble isn't going anywhere for at least a little while. You're welcome to explain why I'm wrong, because I'm not happy about it either. A bubble that does not pop is not a bubble. It is the norm. Scary thing is, what if this is just the price now? That our history of cheap housing was the true bubble and we're now in the new reality, which a lot of the world is already in with regards to affordability. You are spot on. People forget in 2010 the reason you could buy a condo house for the price of a BMW 3 Series is because nobody wanted to buy a house. I understand there are trends and charts and all that, but I really love how everyone knows how something is gonna go. But the reality is no one knows shit about shit. The only thing that's certain is that for every action there's a reaction. And nothing about 2023 is exactly like 2008 or 1985, so every expert should just STFU. May I buy a comma? When a house costs 100 of your take-home pay, I assure you, that average person will no longer want a home. And that is what is happening as interest rates have risen while housing prices have also risen. The Fed has literally telegraphed for you that they're coming for your job to tame inflation. They repeat this every meeting. Some of you people will still be blindsided. I read an article the other day saying it's presently more cost-effective to rent as opposed to buying due to high cost of buying and interest rates. Real estate prices fall 0.2 a month for the next 6 months. How many investors will buy in that environment? Sure, normal people buy, but investors were a big part of the run-up. A rush of homes hitting the market due to layoffs, buy-downs periods ending, student loans restarting, Airbnb bans being unprofitable is all it would take. Only the artificially low supply is holding prices steady. And anything that brings more supply will spook the people who don't want to miss the peak or be left with the bag. It's not a definite, but it's a possibility. I'm already seeing over-leveraged owners trying to rent rooms or fully furnished houses as a stop gap. If it happens, it'll take a combination of a few things. The first being slowing sales, which we have seen. Prices lag because of the psychological effect of seeing neighbors getting $X the past couple of years. Sellers will still believe their home is worth that much. It'll ultimately take some broader economic event to trigger the realization or need to get prices back in line with the current market. The other argument to this is that the bubble has somewhat deflated. Home prices in a lot of areas have dropped. My house specifically has lost roughly 11 since the peak in March 2021. Meanwhile, $1 from March 2021 would need $1.16 to match it today. So between inflation and price reductions, houses are worth a lot less than they were back then. As shitty as it sounds, I've taken a step back in my search for my first home. I get it that most houses like 60 are owned by people with really low rates that won't want to move, or if they do will price their homes accordingly. What I'm expecting is all the people who have been buying since rates have gone up. They have fuck all wiggle room because I've done the math. If we have a recession and shit goes south, I'd expect them to head to foreclosure, at which point I'd be in the market for their homes at a lower price. Whether this happens, who knows, but a boy can dream. You are wrong. People not buying houses because they want the bubble to pop is itself a lessening of demand. There is no such thing as the bubble will not pop. It always pops. I just don't think it is the dramatic collapse some people are expecting. I am already seeing price stagnation. And even price cuts. I think the cuts will continue a bit. It's generally not a bubble. There may be parts of the country that are in a bubble. But generally speaking, the current housing prices are supported by rent. Now whether rents can remain so high is definitely a question worth asking. And if when they drop, then the same priced housing market could become a bubble. I guess it depends on your definition of average person. The average person that currently owns a home is locked into a 3% or less rate, thankful they bought in 2017. The average person today with an average income can't buy a home. I am above average earner in my county and can't responsibly afford a home that isn't a mobile home next to the freeway. So in my personal experience, the average and even above average person isn't participating in the market. The housing collapse that everyone is looking for is not the price it has materialized in the form of inventory. We are witnessing the collapse of available inventory that is hitting the markets due to a few reasons. People cannot afford to move on from their sub-4 mortgages. Home prices have stayed elevated while interest rates keep increasing. Economic uncertainty is keeping a lot of folks from buying. According to history, there have been housing bubbles around every 13 years. This one is lasting longer due to pandemic and influx of money funneling back into the market. It's not an if, but when. OP has it all figured out. Oh please, you are not expert. No one is. This is an unprecedented housing situation. The fact that mortgage demands have dropped to a record low might suggest something. I was sitting on a decent chunk of change for about 5 years waiting for the right moment to buy a house. They just kept getting more more expensive. I kept telling myself it'll pop. It'll pop. You'll be cash heavy and ready. I ended up paying way more than if I hadn't waited. Because in the end I realized, you can't time it. There will never be a right time, so it is what it is. Completely agree. People keep waiting for a massive drop in prices when there are more people wanting houses compared to what is currently available from a supply standpoint, at least in my area. Houses near us, which is a highly desirable location, are being sold within 5 to 10 days or less. And some are still going for over asking. You're wrong, because the average 10-year bond now makes more money than the average rental property of similar value. Have a nice day. Honestly, just get in while you can. I'm not reading all of that. When people can't afford to pay those huge monthly payments that they just locked themselves into, they will get foreclosed on. And there will be some more houses available. Real estate is governed by supply and demand. We have a national shortage. Unless we have a black swan event, prices aren't coming down. Prove me wrong. What happens in the real estate market is less akin to a bubble popping and more akin to a tire slowly deflating. We're just over peak, and things will continue to deflate. It's going to take some time, more than a year, but it will come down. In the meantime, if you don't own a house but want to, get ready. Be disciplined. Your expenses. Save whatever you can. At some point in time, you're going to have an opportunity, and you want to have shit saved up so you don't let the next chance pass by. Real estate value varies by region. In SoCal, there was a drop around 10-15 since the height of the market around spring 2022. It hasn't really moved this year much or all. Even if rates go up, there's too much demand and not enough supply to crash here. There are so many renters, and I personally know a lot of people who would love to buy right now. I can see certain areas of the country getting more blown up than others. But overall, I don't see things crashing anytime soon. As soon as the rates come down, prices will go right back up.